In 1941, a young psychologist named Viktor Frankl was arrested and sent to a Nazi concentration camp. Before that moment, his life was built on logic, science, and a clear sense of purpose. But over the next 3 years, as he endured starvation, disease, and unimaginable loss, he noticed something strange. Welcome to the Sebcast, where we turn our beloved stories on their heads, examine what history might have overlooked, discover anew, and grow together. The people who survived the concentration camps weren't necessarily the strongest, the wealthiest, or the most connected. Those who persevered and, despite everything, found meaning were the ones who learned to let go. Suffering isn't something we like to talk about. We do everything we can to avoid it. We work hard, follow the rules, and make wise choices, hoping to escape the pain somehow. But at some point, no matter how careful we are, suffering comes for us all, and when it does, we have a choice. Some people fight against it. They cling to control, try to control the uncontrollable, and insist that life shouldn't be this way. Others withdraw, numb the pain, and pretend it's not happening. But there's a third group. These are the people who, instead of fighting against suffering, learn to lean into it. Not because they enjoy pain, but because they understand something most of us don't. As terrible as it is, that suffering can also be a teacher. There's an old story about a man named Job, which we also discussed earlier this week. It's one of the oldest stories in the Bible, a tale of unimaginable suffering. Job had everything: wealth, health, family, and security. And then, one by one, he lost it all. His children die. His fortune disappears. His body is covered with painful sores. His friends tell him there must be a reason, that he must have done something wrong. His wife tells him to curse God and give up. But Job does something else. Initially, he fights against it. He demands answers. He wants to know why. But over time, as the suffering continues, something happens in him. He stops trying to control the story. He stops demanding explanations. And in that moment of surrender, something remarkable happens. Think of the most challenging thing you've ever gone through, that moment when everything fell apart, and now ask yourself, who were you before that moment, and who were you after? Suffering, if we allow it, can break down the false self-images we build over the years. It strips us of the illusion of control, the carefully constructed identities, and the belief that we can manipulate life to work for us. And in the space that remains, something unexpected happens. We change. Not in the way we planned, not in the way we wanted, but in a way that transforms us. Viktor Frankl walked out of the concentration camp with a realization that life isn't about how to avoid suffering, it's about finding meaning through it. And maybe that's the true secret. The point of life isn't to never fall, it's to learn how to get back up. We try to avoid suffering, but what if, just maybe, it's the door to something greater? Until next week, take care.